Hey everyone, welcome back to SmartStart Japan. Today we're talking about something that surprises almost every foreign founder who comes to Japan: CEO salaries. So here's a number for you. The average CEO at a major Japanese company makes about $1.2 million per year. Now the average CEO at a major American company, around $20 million. That's not a typo. Japanese CEOs earn about 1/20th of what American CEOs make. And before you think, oh well, Japanese companies must be smaller or less profitable, let me stop you right there. Toyota, the world's largest automaker by sales, paid their CEO about $1.2 million in 2024. Meanwhile, the CEO of Ford, which is smaller than Toyota, made over $20 million the same year. So what's going on here? Why is there such a massive gap? Now, here's why this matters for you as a foreign founder. When you're setting up your company in Japan, you need to figure out, how much should I pay myself? And a lot of founders get this wrong. They either pay themselves way too much based on what they'd earn back home, and it creates visa problems, tax issues, and culture clashes with their Japanese employees. Or they pay themselves too little and can't actually survive in Tokyo. So today we're going to break down the real numbers. We'll look at what Japanese CEOs actually make across different company sizes, compare Japan to other countries, talk about why Japanese CEO pay is so dramatically different, and most importantly, give you practical guidelines for setting your own CEO compensation as a foreign founder in Japan. So first question, what do Japanese CEOs actually make? And the answer really depends on company size. The median total compensation for CEOs at these companies is somewhere between 100 million yen and 300 million yen per year. That's roughly 650,000 to $2 million US. Now, there are outliers. Masayoshi Son at SoftBank, he's made over 1 billion yen some years, which is about $6.5 million. But that's not normal. Most CEOs at even Japan's biggest companies are making between 150 million yen and 200 million yen. Let me give you a concrete example. Keiyesha, the CEO of Toyota, literally one of the world's largest companies, made about 180 million yen in 2024. That's $1.2 million. Now compare that to Mary Barra at GM, who made $29 million the same year, same industry, similar company size, 25 times the pay, mid-cap and small-cap listed companies. Now, if we go down to mid-cap listed companies, so these are still public companies, but smaller market cap, maybe 100 billion yen to 1 trillion yen in value, the median CEO pay drops to about 50 million yen to 100 million yen. That's $325,000 to $650,000. The typical structure here is about 70% base salary, 30% performance bonus, so it's pretty straightforward. If you're running a private company with revenue between 1 billion yen and 10 billion yen, so that's about $6.5 million to $65 million in revenue. Median CEO pay is around 20 million yen to 40 million yen per year. That's $130,000 to $260,000. Revenue between 100 million yen and 1 billion yen. CEO pay drops to about 10 million yen to 20 million yen. That's $65,000 to $130,000. And for SMEs, small and medium enterprises with revenue under 100 million yen, we're talking 5 million yen to 10 million yen for CEO pay. That's only $32,000 to $65,000 per year. A lot of founder CEOs at this stage pay themselves the bare minimum just to keep cash in the business. Slide pay to revenue ratio chart. Now, here's a pattern that's really consistent across all these company sizes. Japanese CEOs typically earn about 0.5% to 2% of company revenue. In the US, that number is more like 3% to 5% of revenue. So if your company is making 1 billion yen in revenue, that's about $6.5 million. A Japanese CEO might take 20 million yen, which is 2% of revenue. An American CEO of a similar size company might take $300,000 to $400,000, which is 5% of revenue. This ratio is super important to understand because when you're setting your own CEO compensation, you want to stay within this range. Immigration, tax authorities, even your investors, they're all going to benchmark your pay against these norms. Alright, so now let's zoom out and compare Japan to the rest of the world. Because once you see this, the differences are pretty shocking. I'm going to put up a chart here showing median CEO pay at large public companies across different countries. United States, $20 million to $25 million. And the CEO to worker pay ratio, 350 to 1. That means the average CEO makes 350 times what the average worker makes. United Kingdom, $8 million to $12 million. Pay ratio, 120 to 1. Germany, 6 million to 8 million. Pay ratio, 80 to 1. France, 5 million to 7 million. Pay ratio, 90 to 1. Now let's look at Asia. Singapore, $4 million to $6 million. Pay ratio, 70 to 1. South Korea, $3 million to $5 million. Pay ratio, 60 to 1. Japan, $1.2 million to $2 million. Pay ratio, 15 to 1. That's it, 15 to 1. Japanese CEOs make about 15 times what the average worker makes. Compare that to 350 to 1 in the US. Japan has the lowest CEO to worker pay ratio of any developed economy in the world. Now, you might notice that even compared to other Asian countries, Japan is low. South Korea pays their CEOs almost double. Singapore pays triple. Why? South Korea has the chaebol system. These massive family-run conglomerates like Samsung and Hyundai, the CEOs are often from the founding families, and they're also major shareholders. So their wealth comes from ownership, not just salary, but even their salaries are higher than Japan's because there's more cultural acceptance of large pay disparities. Singapore and Hong Kong are international financial hubs. They compete globally for executive talent, especially in finance and tech, so they pay more to attract people from London, New York, wherever. Japan is different. Japanese companies aren't trying to compete globally for CEO talent. They promote from within, they value cultural fit and institutional knowledge over hiring some rockstar executive from Silicon Valley. And then there's China, at least for state-owned enterprises, where CEO pay is actually lower than Japan, around $500,000 to $1 million. That's because the government mandates pay caps, but private tech companies like Alibaba and Tencent pay more, though still well below US levels. So now the big question, why? Why is Japanese CEO pay so dramatically lower than everywhere else? And the answer is, it's both cultural and structural. Let me break it down. Cultural factors. First, there's this concept in Japanese culture called Kenkyo na Keiyesha, modest leadership. Japanese culture really values humility in leadership. If you're a CEO and you're flashing around luxury cars, wearing Rolex watches, living in a mansion, that's going to be viewed very negatively. You're supposed to be one of the team, not some separate elite class. There was this big scandal with Carlos Ghosn, the former CEO of Nissan. He was convicted of understating his compensation by billions of yen. And yes, there were legal issues there. But the public outrage wasn't just about the legal stuff, it was about the sheer amount he was paying himself. People were disgusted. They felt betrayed because in Japan, that level of executive pay is seen as greedy and disrespectful to employees. Second factor, stakeholder capitalism. In the US and UK, companies focus primarily on shareholder returns, maximize profit, maximize stock price, reward executives for delivering shareholder value. Japan doesn't work that way. Japanese companies think about multiple stakeholders, employees first, job security, stable wages, then customers, quality, service, then suppliers, long-term partnerships, then the local community, maintaining employment, supporting the region, shareholders come last. So if the priority is keeping employees stable and customers happy, not maximizing short-term profits, there's just less pressure to pay CEOs huge amounts. Third, the long-term employment culture. In Japan, CEOs are usually promoted from within after 30-year careers at the company. They started as entry-level employees, worked their way up through middle management, and eventually became CEO. So executive pay is just an extension of the salary progression they've been on their whole career. It's not like in the US where you bring in some hotshot CEO from outside and pay them $20 million to turn the company around. When you've been at the company for 30 years and your colleagues are still there and you're all one team, you can't suddenly start paying yourself 500 times what everyone else makes. It damages morale. Structural factors. Now let's talk structure. Why does the system keep CEO pay low? First, board composition. Japanese boards are dominated by insiders, current executives, former executives, people who have been at the company for decades. There's not a lot of independent directors pushing for higher executive pay. And why would there be? If you're on the board, you're probably next in line to be CEO. You empathize with modest pay because you're living it too. Second, cross-shareholding. This is the Keiretsu system. Companies hold each other's shares. Banks, suppliers, business partners, they all own a little bit of each other. This reduces the pressure from activist investors who might push for higher returns and higher executive pay. The shareholders are friendly, long-term partners, not aggressive hedge funds. Third, the bonus structure. In Japan, performance bonuses are tied to company-wide results, not individual CEO performance. Now, let me tell you what not to do. These are red flags that will cause you problems. Red flag. Number 1, CEO pay that's disproportionate to company performance. So here's an example. Let's say you're paying yourself 20 million yen, but your company only made 15 million yen in profit. Immigration is going to question this when you go to renew your visa. The tax office might disallow the deduction. Just don't do it. Red flag number 2. Sudden large increases. So let's say last year you paid yourself 8 million yen. This year you want to pay yourself 30 million yen. And there's no major change in the business to justify it. that looks really suspicious to authorities. It's much better to do gradual increases that are aligned with actual business growth. Red flag number 3, ignoring employee pay ratios. If your employees are earning 4 million yen and you're paying yourself 40 million yen, you've got a 10-to-1 ratio. That's going to create serious resentment, especially with Japanese employees who aren't used to seeing that kind of gap. For small companies, try to keep your ratio under 10-to-1. For larger companies, under 30-to-1 is more acceptable. Red flag number 4, all cash, no skin in the game. If you're taking a high salary while the company is struggling, Japanese stakeholders are going to judge you hard. They expect CEOs to share the pain, so consider actually taking a pay cut during downturns. That shows you're committed to the company's long-term success, not just your own paycheck. Strategic considerations. Here's what you need to balance when you're figuring this out. You've got your personal cost of living in Tokyo, and let's be real, it's expensive. You've got immigration requirements where you need to show adequate income. You've got company cash flow, so can you actually afford to pay yourself? And then there's tax optimization, thinking about salary versus dividends. The VisaSafe formula we recommend goes like this. Minimum 3 million yen salary to show you're supporting yourself. Keep your total compensation under 20% of company profit. Document that your duties actually justify the compensation, and make sure you're aligning with industry norms for your company size. Building credibility. Here's the thing. If you show that you understand Japanese norms by setting modest initial pay, and then you increase it gradually as the company actually proves itself, you build real credibility with Japanese partners, investors, and employees. Be transparent about your compensation philosophy. Don't try to hide it. Explain that you're following Japanese norms and that you'll increase your pay as the company grows. And remember, you can pay yourself more when certain conditions are met. When the company has been profitable for 2 consecutive years or more. When revenue is growing steadily. When you're paying your employees fairly first. And when you have clearly documented management responsibilities. Now, if you're setting up a company in Japan and you want to structure your CEO compensation correctly, balancing your personal needs, company cash flow, visa requirements, and Japanese cultural expectations, talk to us at SmartStart Japan. We help foreign founders with things like structuring executive compensation for tax efficiency and visa compliance, navigating Japanese employment and tax regulations, setting up proper corporate governance and compensation approval processes, and preparing for successful visa renewals with compensation structures that you can actually defend. Book a free 30-minute consultation at smartstartjapan.com, and we'll help you figure out the right compensation structure for your specific situation, one that keeps you compliant, culturally appropriate, and financially sustainable.